How many of you really have heard about the movie called The Passion's Way? Not many, right? I know not many people are really aware of this, but this is a very beautiful movie, which was actually, I think, completed. The movie was really completed by 1996, but I think it just came out in 1999. It's a movie which is completely based upon this really wonderful novel written by Edith Wharton. Edith Wharton is a novelist, and she really is the one who wrote these beautiful novels like The Age of Innocence, The Reeve, The Children, The House of Mirth, and I think her works are more pragmatic than Jane Austen. I believe Jane Austen is the most loved one, and I really am a huge fan of Jane Austen myself, but I think Edith Wharton brings in the touch of sadness, which I think we all experience on a more practical basis. And not many people probably are aware of her, but I think she definitely deserves the attention and that every other author probably deserves, and her works are pretty amazing. I think the most famous work of Edith Wharton probably might be The Age of Innocence, for it was actually adapted on a movie screen by none other than Martin Scorsese and starring the biggest of stars, right from Daniel Day-Lewis to Michelle Pfeiffer to Winona Ryder. So yeah, but still I don't think that movie is not as popular as any of other Martin Scorsese movies. But anyways, today we're gonna talk about The Passion's Way, which I don't think is a very famous movie, or I'm not sure if anyone really listening to this is also probably aware of, because I don't know, it's a TV movie, and this is a beautiful movie just to begin with. Not many people really approve of the movie. Well, I've never been able to understand why. They say it doesn't have the kind of finesse it probably needs to have, or the dialogues are not really feeling well. I do understand that some parts are a bit rushed and some parts are a bit stretchy. I don't think it's a complete, I don't, it's like, I don't think it has a complete justice to the novel, but I think it's a great movie and of course deserve to be watched. So The Passion's Way is a movie which stars Timothy Dalton, Stella Ward, and Alicia Witt portraying the roles of the lead characters of the novel. And now again, I love Timothy Dalton, even though he's again, not really as appreciated. I think he's very underappreciated, for he's a great actor. And Stella Ward. So now to the story of the movie. The movie has actually three main characters: Anna Leith, Sophie Weiner, and Charles Darrow. Anna Leith is played by Stella Ward, Charles Darrow by Timothy Dalton, and Sophie Weiner by Alicia Witt. Anna Leith is this widow who lives in France, who was actually in love with Charles Darrow. Charles Darrow is this American diplomat, and he has been in love with Anna Leith's character for pretty much eons now. But Anna, who was again in love with Charles at one time, chooses to marry another man over Charles because of a fear of not being able to keep up with Charles' reputation, or the aura that Charles carries around him. So Anna, being fearful that she will never be able to be the perfect match for him, chooses someone with whom she feels more ease and doesn't feel scared, or doesn't really feel undervalued around. But Charles has always been in love with Anna, and he chooses to be a bachelor because he couldn't imagine his life with anyone else but Anna. So after a long hiatus, Charles finally gets an opportunity to meet Anna, and Anna invites him to her place in France. So while Charles is happily on his way to meet his love of the life, Anna, there comes a problem, because Anna just sent the telegram saying she will not be able to receive him this time. So Charles is pretty dejected. Just imagine a man who's been in love with this woman for so many years, and finally all the obstacles in the way. Well, her husband was definitely an obstacle probably. So now that she's a widow and there was nothing in the way, he thought maybe it's his time to go and probably just swoop her away. But again, she rejects him. Again, she says maybe we have to postpone this meeting for a future date. So he's pretty disappointed, like massively disappointed. And so while he's just thinking whether he should really continue his journey to France or should he just really go back to his place, he meets this really cheerful and amazing partner called Sophie Weiner. And she's this working class woman who really works to make her ends meet in some of those, I don't know, some of the stations where Charles was really a regular customer, and she happens to know Charles through the social circles. And then Charles is really struggling to remember who she is, but they strike a conversation and they go have some tea and they just really have a good time. And that's when Charles decides maybe it's not that bad if he really goes to Paris and just, spend some time. And since he's very dejected, he's just trying to be as impulsive as possible. And he just decides for once and for all, probably, that Anna never really liked him and she's just probably never gonna like him. So he decides to just give it a shot to go to Paris all by himself along with Sophie. So as he goes to Paris, he and Sophie, because of situations, are forced to live with each other. And well, when this amazingly dashing man as Charles Darrow leads with this really amazing Sophie Weiner, things really go pretty steamy and they have this pretty wild fling. And only to be completely sabotaged by their future circumstances. They really have a great time, because Sophie has been having a very, very not so great life. And Charles, of course, just imagine trying to just spend all your life in hope of marrying someone else's wife. I mean, that's a pretty boring task, I guess. So, so he just kind of like lets himself free and into the arms of this woman, and they really kind of have a great time. But as these things proceed and they being adults about it, they just decide, okay, it's a fling, let's call this off and let's just go about our ways. And they just go about their ways, and only later, for their own chagrin, do they discover that Anna Leith, Charles Darrow, and Sophie Weiner are all going to be under one roof in the most unexpected and most unpleasant of situations. And that brings on a whole lot of trauma, emotion, dishonesty, and I don't know, dirty thoughts, probably paranoia, and everything into play. And how they just surpass that awkwardness, that weirdness, and the paranoid behaviors and things, and really put everything to rest and finally have a happy ending, is what this movie is all about. To be honest, I think people should really watch it. I mean, you pretty much know I just gave away it's gonna have a happy ending. So, yeah, this is a happy ending for Charles Darrow and Anna Leith. But you really have to see the journey they go through, the kind of, I mean, the mental pressures they have and societal obligations they think they have to go by and they have to fulfill. Because, it's a movie which was set in the late American, I don't know, the late, very late century probably. So, and it's pretty much completely imbued with societal standards, what's appropriate, what's misappropriate, what's inappropriate, and everything. And you never really know, who's gonna get pissed off with what, who's not gonna get pissed off with what. So yeah, they're just trying not to please themselves, but they're trying to please a hell of a lot of people out there. So it's a great movie, to be honest, and definitely worth a shot and to watch it and probably see what you feel about it. I mean, the acting wise, everyone's just really, really great. It's Timothy Dalton's character or anything, they really portrayed pretty nicely. And I guess when you watch it, you get this visceral feeling. You feel their jealousy, you feel their love, you feel their lust, you feel their passion, you feel their sacrifice. You experience it. It's there, no matter how. I mean, I don't really think the script writing was pretty amazing or to the point, because it could have been better. But the characters, but the actors, to be honest, they have really pumped life into this movie, and you can watch it for the surreal acting and waste your time, I'm sure. So yeah, do watch Passion Sway, which is not that famous, but yeah, it's not as bad as many movies which are out there and pretty famous. It's a great way to look into what it was to live in the society at those times, and what it was to love someone, what it was to